Okay, so this was a fiber that we did in in our last mystery knit along when we did the Haplander,
Yeah.
and we did that all in sport weight yarn. And the Wensleydale was by far, I think, the most popular fiber. I mean, the extra skeins we had just disappeared. So, and we never did it in barn box, so I thought it would be a good one to bring back and do in barn box. So we just did it in a slightly different weight, the DK weight, and it's lovely. This this fiber, so the Wensleydale sheep is a heritage British breed, but the fiber for this yarn is raised in upstate New York on the same farm that produces our Romney fiber. So another long wool sheep. And so we wanted a slightly different color. It's only slightly different. So they blended a little of the Romney in to darken it a little bit. Um, but that farmer, Carol, and Foster Farm. Um, Carol actually worked at the mill that's spun the yarn. She recently retired, but she's still got her sheep. And her her Romney fiber, oh, we've been buying Romney fiber from her since we started making the Kent yarn. So she's pretty much the only producer of Romney for us. At times we've purchased for very large lots from other farmers, but as our ongoing staple yarn, she's the producer, and her fleeces have just grown softer and silkier and nicer over the years with the Romney. And then she brought in Wensleydales and started producing that. And a couple of years ago, that was made available to us for the mystery knit along. So this is kind of exciting that she's doing this now. And she's clearly very experienced with long wool fiber and the properties that make it desirable for knitting. And so we love working with her. And then it's spun at a mill that's like right near her house. So it's amazing kind of um great relationship that she has with that mill. And she's a knitter, and her kids were in 4-H, and they raised fiber for us 10, 15 years ago. When we got started, we were buying from her son. So it's just been a really nice relationship ongoing, and I love that about it. um Upstate New York, where the farm is located, has a lot of similarities to the northern areas of England. Like the Northumberland areas. It's very hilly and rocky. You can't really It's not great for raising crops, but there's a lot of dairy farming and sheep farming and orchards. So lots of fruit farming up in that region, and um maple farms. There's a whole bunch of maple maple producers up there. So it's got a lot of similarity in the terrain. And not that, that's not a necessarily disqualifying thing if you don't have that terrain, but like other fibers that we've talked about, US farmers of the same breeds tend to, and especially these heritage breeds, tend to focus a little bit more on producing nice fleece, as opposed to on the British side. For decades now, they've been more focused on producing meat, and so that does make some difference in the well, definitely in the size of the animal and all of that. But when you focus your breeding with some, at least, attention to fiber, you're going to get nicer, softer fiber. So the American breeders of sheep like Jacob and Wensleydale and even Dorsets and others that we've talked about tend to be producing softer, more handleable fiber that's geared toward satisfying the craft fiber market that exists here. And we do have a wider network, although the British network is building um, over the last decade, but we do have a wider and deeper network for absorbing that more high-end fleece product. Not that American farmers aren't also focusing on meat, because that's your bread and butter. That's how you are able to produce fiber, is by having some kind of product that also produces money. so, so that's really important. But we are very lucky that when we can source a fiber in the U.S., it's going to be usually a softer, nicer product than the parallel British product. And I'm not disparaging British, breeders at all. I think they're coming to have a market where they can focus on fiber and have it be lucrative for them. The reason that they haven't focused as much on that is that it hasn't been something that interested the public as much. So they're coming along in terms of that, but their focus, is mainly still on meat production. And I'm not trying to disparage the British market in any way by those statements. Um, Farmers have to do what they have to do to keep doing it. So, okay. So, as I was saying, the Wensleydale is a British breed of domestic sheep named for the Wensleydale region of North Yorkshire, England. It is a very large, long-wool sheep, described by the British Meat and Livestock Commission as probably the heaviest of all our indigenous breeds. The Wensleydale is a visually striking sheep with a considerable presence. It has bold, alert carriage, accentuated by broad, level back that sits on wide hindquarters and strong thighs. It has distinctive blue head, deep blue head, and long pearled wool. And what that means is that instead of just like a zigzag crimp, the crimp of the fiber tends to be very rounded, and it um it it winds back on itself as you travel down the locks. So it resembles a purled stitch um to some extent. It has elongated upright black ears and black legs. So I'm gonna bring up some photos. So this is a more antique kind of black and white photo of the Wensleydale, but it shows you the shape of the sheep. It's basically a big rectangular sheep with a, kind of smaller head. Um, and then I'll show you a couple of colored photos where you can really see the colors of the fleece and everything. So I have a kind of graduated series of photos that shows you the sheep in different stages of being shorn. So this one has just been sheared, and you can see the deep blue color under the little bit of hair that it has on its face, and even the black around the nose and the eyes. But the rest of the sheep is very, very creamy colored. And Wensleydales do come in different colors. So this is a cream color one. And then these are some sheep that the fleece has started growing out a little bit. You can see that it's a little bit shaggier and not as close clipped as the other one. And these photos are all from farms in Great Britain. So you might see more white fleeces in these, but this is where they're really filling out a little bit more. And you can see that some of the face is becoming covered with fleece so that it covers up some of the darkness of the face. But look at the rectangular shape on this cream sheep. It's just quite large. And they have this little forelock on the top of their head in between their eyes. That's it's a breeding thing that, in the last 2 centuries ago, really, farmers started breeding for this so that when they went to shows and sales, the fleece could be kind of assessed right away by handling that little forelock on the top of the head. So that's kind of something that was bred into the breed, kind of as a marketing tactic. And then we've got here they are with their couple more with their long fleeces. So the fleece of these, and we'll talk more about the fleece later, but the fleece can grow up to, I think, 18 inches in length. So um, for the hand spinning wool market, some farmers will let the fleece grow that long because you can hand spin it. You can hand spin quite a long fiber, but for spinning yarn at a mill, you need to keep the fleece at a 5 or 6 inch length. So many farmers will shear 2 or even 3 times a year to get that length and be able to send it to the mill. But and you can see here, hopefully you can see that purled shape in the locks. It's not that tight zigzag that you'll see in a merino fleece. And these locks will even start to form kind of a ringlet or like a dreadlock kind of shape. They're very separate, not that compact cauliflower fleece that you see on like a merino or a Corriedale. Okay, here are some sheep that at about the same stage, but you can see the depth of color in that dark one. They get um, really quite long, and that forelock on the head just gets kind of out of control. So those are some really shaggy ones. Males and females of the breed are polled, hornless, which means hornless, and feature a forelock of wool that falls between the ears and across the face called the topping. While mostly aesthetic, it is said the topping was developed to allow fleece quality to be easily judged. Noted for the quality of its fleece, Wensleydale, like many long wool breeds, was developed for improving the offspring of hill breed ewes, as well as being bred pure to produce valuable luster fleeces. And we've talked about that before with many, many breeds of hill sheep where, that agile, um, very hardy body of the hill sheep, which produces multiple lambs, can be improved by crossing with a ram that is larger and hardier in its carcass, so that the hill breeds can become larger and produce larger multiple lambs that are a good, product for market. Wensleydale wool is the finest and most valuable luster long wool in the world, consistently commanding the highest prices at the British Wool Marketing Board's wool schedule over recent years. Today, the breed is established throughout the United Kingdom and several other countries across the globe, where its fine, heavy fleeces are much in demand from spinners. It is now being established in the USA. It is on the watch list of the Rare Breed Survival Trust UK, but is not listed by the Livestock Conservancy, which is the American, organization for that, possibly because it is still being established in the USA. The Wensleydale breed was developed to provide rams for crossing onto hill ewes, which feed on marginal forage, mainly the Swalldale, Blackface, Rough Fell, Cheviot, Dalesbred, and Beulah, to produce more prolific, milky, and hardy breeding ewes, like the original Massam, which we've studied in barn box before, and also to produce wethers, castrated males with a higher weight, lean quality carcass. Wensleydale rams provide that extra size and quality to the offspring. An example of an offshoot breed would be the blue-faced Leicester. And for those who might remember back when we did our BFL yarn 2 years ago now, I think. Or maybe was it just last year? No, it was 2 years ago. Um, they have a lot of the same body characteristics, and the color of their fleeces and their skin is very, very similar to the Wensleydale. Equally important is the exceptionally high quality of its lustrous wool, making it an outstanding dual-purpose sheep. The Wensleydale has shows of the highest genetic resistance to scrapie of all recognized breeds in the United Kingdom. Scrapie is like it's a condition caused by mites that produces like a dandruff-like substance in the fleece, and um, it renders fleeces unusable, basically, because it can cause breakage and other skin diseases that cause an inconsistency along the length of the fleece as it grows. Whether used for pure breeding or crossbreeding, this genetic trait will positively influence the offspring. Due to the unique characteristics of the wool-producing follicles, fleeces are entirely kemp-free. So you won't find any of those stiff white kemp hairs in this yarn. This special quality is genetically transmitted to crossbred lambs, making the Wensleydale ram a leader in wool improvement programs. The Wensleydale longwool breed originated in North Yorkshire early in the 19th century, when an outstanding Dishley Leicester ram named Blue Cap was crossed with a now extinct longwool breed from the region of River Tees. It is unique that the breed association is not only able to identify a foundation sire, but also trace that ram's parentage, year and place of birth and breeder. Blue Cap was born in 1939 in the hamlet of East Appleton in North Yorkshire. His qualities, which determined the Wensleydale breed type without any further infusion of Leicester blood, were his dark skin, superb quality of wool, and size, 448 pounds, as a two-shear. From weaning to the first shearing or clipping, rams are called hoggets. Then they take the name of the shearling, and after that they are called two-shear, three-shear, and so on according to the years they are clipped or shorn. This new breed type was not named until 1876, when a name was required for classes at the Yorkshire Show. As with the Teeswater, the Wensleydale's numbers declined as its role as a crossing sire diminished. Heritage Heritage Sheep Reproduction LLC is a company that's working with the USA and UK sheep industries to facilitate the shipment of both frozen ram semen and frozen sheep embryos from UK to breeders in the USA from a range of UK breeds. Owned by Deb Nelson Gorley, this new and novel type company assists USA sheep breeders of any size flock, but especially those raising unique breeds. The USDA APHIS has approved import permits totaling 7,000 straws of frozen ram semen from 30 plus breeds in the United Kingdom. All frozen semen shipments are stored at Great Lakes Sire Service, Bronson, Michigan, under liquid nitrogen, and frozen sheep breed embryos will be stored at reproduction specialty groups in Lebanon, Indiana. Because the U.S. government does not allow the importation of live sheep from the U.K., several passionate breeders who wanted to see Wensleydale established here in the USA forged the way by founding an association and creating a program to breed up through many generations by infusing 100% Wensleydale genetics imported from the UK. The mission was to recreate the UK Wensleydale breed here in the US. Over many generations of using artificial insemination with foundation ewes, some breeders have produced outstanding animals that reliably reproduce the quality longwool that the breed is known for. The first North American Wensleydale sheep were born in the late 1990s. The non-Wensleydale ewes used in the first cross must be registered with one of the following U.S. breed association. No other foundation breeds shall be recognized. So these are the breeds that are allowed to be crossbred with Wensleydale semen to be able to produce Wensleydale sheep. Those are the Cotswold. Then they have to be registered with the American Cotswold Record Association, Cotswold Breeders Association, or the Black Cotswold Society. Leicester Longwool, Leicester Longwool Sheep Breeders Association, um, and and the and they strongly discourage use of Leicester Longwools due to their low population in the U.S. So you can use that sheep, but it's kind of strongly suggested that let that breed up for a while before we start crossbreeding it with other sheep. And then the other breed that's used is the Lincoln breed of sheep, which is registered through the National Lincoln Sheep Breeders Association. And those are all sheep that are very large sheep, that were the breeds were developed for meat production and also for wool production. All of those breeds produce lovely wool, lovely long wool, and have very hardy genetics. I think we've talked before about the Lincoln breed being used to crossbreed with a number of different breeds that we know of, like the um, oh, of course, it slipped my mind just now. The Corriedale breed is a crossback from the Lincoln breed, and they just have really hardy, assertive genetics and healthy genetics. And so, even though even though their numbers worldwide are low, the genetics still are very good for producing crossbreed sheep. Once approved, the Foundation U can be used to start new lines of registered NAWSA Wensleydales, provided she is bred via AI with frozen semen approved by UK registered rams. The registered Foundation U carries a blood percentage of 0% Wensleydale. I know this is getting a little bit in the weeds about how these breeds can be produced, but it's kind of interesting that to bring a breed into the United States, this is how we have to, these are the hoops that a farmer has to jump through to establish, a flock here. Okay. The Wensleydale is a large sheep, mature rams. Oh, I just want to say one other thing about that company that brings in the 7,000 straws of semen. I went on their website. It is like it's like a little market. You can buy, they tell you what they have available and how many straws and, the embryos that are available, and you can purchase it, and it's shipped frozen to your farm, and then you can artificially inseminate on site. So it's kind of a little shopping mall of of sheep semen that, of different breeds. It's pretty cool. The Wensleydale is a large sheep. Mature rams weigh up to 300 pounds average and ewes around 220 pounds, although individual sheep may be heavier. The skin on the head and ears should be blue, often extending onto the back and flanks, particularly where exposed to sunlight. Ewes will produce 2 lambs and often 3 with minimal issues. And the larger size of these sheep contributes to that capacity as well. Yearling ewes average a 200% production, mature ewes 250%. Twin lambs average 13 pounds each at birth, with ram lambs reaching 160 pounds at 21 weeks, and ready to breed hill ewes in the autumn. Can you imagine if your kids grew that fast? It would be awful. Lambs grow rapidly and can thrive off poorer pasture, particularly when used as a crossing sire. Fleece is long, bright, and lustrous in an unclipped sheep. Staples should be of medium breadth and equal size all around the body, each staple curled or pearled throughout its length. The belly and scrotum in rams should be well covered in wool and free of hair. Fleeces are of 8 to 12 inches in staple length and 32 to 34 micron in thickness, with yearling fleece weight of between 13 and 20 pounds, which is really a lot. They are entirely hemp-free, a unique quality. In the UK, two separate breed societies were formed in 1890 due to rivalry and conflicting interests. These were the Wensleydale Longwool Association and the Wensleydale Blueface Sheep Breeders Association, each producing its own flock book, despite the fact that each represented the same breed with the same characteristics. The eventual recognition that such division was not in the interest of the breed led to the merging of the two societies in 1920 to form the current Wensleydale Longwool Sheep Breeders Association. Some white animals carry one recessive black gene, and mating two such sheep can produce colored lambs from a flock that appears to be all white. Although referred to as black Wensleydales, the color will vary from silver to jet black. The tips of the staples weather to a golden brown or beige. Lambs are generally born black or charcoal gray. Colored lambs, not white ones. So they're born charcoal black or charcoal gray. These darker fleeces tend to fade to gray with age and with the appearance of white fibers. However, the variation in color within each staple is particularly valuable to hand spinners and textile artists, so this wool maintains its premium value over the lifespan of the animal. When demand for wool was at its peak commercially, which was around 1910 to 1915, it was common for black lambs to be culled to prevent the valuable white clip being polluted with colored fibers and to protect the reputation of breeders. Now, a separate registry is maintained in the flock book for colored Wensleydales, which occur naturally because of a double recessive black gene, not exclusive to Wensleydales. In other words, culling dark lambs doesn't really keep your flock from producing black lambs. So it was kind of a useless, task. These lambs are registered in the colored register, and the parents must also be transferred out of the white flock. In fact, colored lambs born in white flocks have become very important as they widen the gene pool for colored breeders. Since the colored register was established in 1994, the number of black ewe lambs registered in the association has fluctuated. In 1999, there were 88 registrations from 13 flocks, but by 2009, the number had declined to 6 flocks. Regarding a black spot on a white animal or a white spot on a colored animal, any registered animal at 1 year of age shall not have more than one spot within the main woolen area of the body, and that spot shall not exceed 2.5 centimeters, approximately the size of a quarter. The North American Wensleydale Sheep Association is a breed registry which oversees breed standards, breed up guidelines, and pedigrees of North American Wensleydale sheep. Because this breed is in the process of being established here in the U.S., and because you cannot import these animals, our registry and breed up guidelines are very specific and have many rules. Having a bit of Wensleydale genetics in an animal's background does not qualify it for registration. Established in 1999 by a handful of committed shepherds who established a protocol for recreating the Wensleydale breed here in the United States and North America. The government places restrictions on the importation of live animals, and the only way to bring this wonderful breed here was to build it. At some future point, the association hopes to put together a history of the early period and recognize breeders and shepherds who had a hand in helping the seeds from which we are growing a large and prosperous population. And I just want to interject here that the farm that Carol Foster's farm that we sourced this from is almost certainly on the early wave of this of building this population of Wensleydales in the US, because um, things started to happen in the late 1990s. It's only 25 years later, and she's been raising these sheep for at least a decade. So she's, very early in that purpose of building, the breed here. The NAWSA has very specific guidelines for using blood percentages to breed up through 5 successive generations using imported frozen semen from UK Wensleydales. Each generation of offspring is given a percentage to track its blood percentage when it's registered. This process takes a minimum of 5 generations and can also include using registered domestic rams after the first generation. 5 generations isn't that much. It's about 10 years. So, that's as a project for a farm, it's not, the most drawn out process. Wensleydale wool is the finest and most valuable luster long wool in the world and entirely hemp-free. It is valued by handcrafters for its special luster and drape and used to make hand knitting and weaving yarn, knitwear, clothing, textiles, and sometimes upholstery fabrics. And I would add in there woven items for the home, such as blankets and pillows and things like that. It is regularly used to blend with mohair because of its similarity. Now, you might wonder, a lot of people are familiar with Wensleydale cheese. So Wensleydale cheese is a medium cheese that is supple and crumbly with a slight honey aroma and flavor suited to combination with sweet fruit. Wensleydale cheese was first made by the French Cistercian monks from the Roquefort region who settled in Wensleydale during the 1200s or 1300s. They built a monastery at Fours, then later moved on to Gervaux in lower Wensleydale. They brought with them a recipe for making cheese from sheep's milk. At that time, Wensleydale cheese was almost always blue, with the white variety almost unknown. But during the 14th century, monks began using cow's milk instead, and the character of the cheese began to change. A little used milk was still mixed in to provide a more open texture, allowing the development of the blue mold. Nowadays, the opposite is true, with blue Wensleydale rarely being seen. When the monastery was devolved in 1540, local farmers continued making the cheese until the Second World War, when most milk in the country was diverted for making government cheddar. Even after rationing ceased in 1954, cheesemaking did not return to pre-war levels. The first creamery to produce Wensleydale commercially was established in 1897 in the town of Hawes. And I actually have I have photos of this place. Let's see. I guess I just have an interior photo here. And now it's like a little kind of museum. Let's see. So Wensleydale Dairy Products, who bought the Wensleydale Creamery in 1992, sought to protect the name Yorkshire Wensleydale under an EU regulation. Protected geographical indication status was awarded in 2013. The term Yorkshire Wensleydale can only be used for cheese that is made in Wensleydale. In the 1990s, sales of Wensleydale cheese from the Wensleydale Creamery had fallen so low that production in Wensleydale itself was at risk of being suspended. The cheese experienced a boost in its popularity after being featured in several Wallace and Gromit clay animation shorts, and the company survived. The main character of the series, Wallace, a cheese connoisseur and inventor, mentions Wensleydale as a particular favorite. Animator and creator Nick Park chose it solely because it had a good name that would be interesting to animate the lip sync to rather than due to its origins in Northern England, where the shorts were set. He was completely unaware of the financial difficulties that the company was experiencing. The company contacted Aardman Animations about a license for a special brand of Wensleydale cheese called Wallace and Gromit Wensleydale, which sold well. When the 2005 full-length Wallace and Gromit film, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, was released, sales of Wensleydale cheese increased by 23%. So that's just a little tidbit of the wool world helping the commercial world. I just want to show you some more pictures of the sheep themselves. So this is a flock that it exists in the US, and I believe this farm is in the Pacific Northwest. This woman has been building a flock for about 25 years. And I love this photo because you can see a really wide range of colors here. The fleeces from these animals almost certainly destined for the craft market. It would be probably too small of a flock to keep the colors separate in a commercial setting. Our yarn is spun with a variety of fleece colors, all blended into one, final color. We have a lot of the silver gray in there, and then some of the darker color as well. When the fleeces for our wool come to the mill, they are separated um, into shades. So they arrive in small lots. I mean, it's like a huge construction trash bag of each color. It's not a lot. And so maybe 20 or 30 pounds of each color. And for everything from white to pale silver to charcoal to or gray to charcoal to brown to black. Here are some photos of a little bit closer up photos of the fleece itself. So this is a very dark fleece, but you can see how, because the growing season is long and the locks are long, if the outer tips of the locks are going to be lighter, and the outer layer of locks is going to be lighter, sun bleached. And then if you push those aside, you can see the much darker charcoal and black fleece underneath. And similarly with the lighter fleece, let me just find that. So the lighter fleece gets a little dirty on the outside, and some of the oil and waxy substance that's produced in the fleece kind of hardens on it over the summer or while out of doors. And then if you spread it apart, you can see how brilliantly white it is underneath. So once that goes through a bath, it's much, much, much whiter. A lot of that dirty color washes out. And this is a great photo too, of the purling of the lock. You can see it bends one way and another, and even curls around itself a little bit. It begins to spiral as it grows out from the skin. Let's see. I just also want to share a couple photos of the Wensleydale region. It's very beautiful. So Yorkshire is it's agricultural um, country. So it's largely unspoiled. This is a really nice photo of a sheep in the pasture, and then the track that was built with stone to bring them all back into the fold, when they need to be brought in. And you can see further out those stone fences just go for miles. You know, they're amazing. I'll I'll I don't know if you can see that further afield there. Just beautiful. And then here's another photo of like the mountains and the waterways, and again, stone fences everywhere. That just indicates how much stone is is in those hills. It's just beautiful. And it's very steep, like I was saying. And this is, when you travel through deep upstate New York, like up near the Vermont border, you see the same kind of landscape there. Very, very hilly. Very difficult to get vehicles in and out of places like that, and almost impossible to raise crops, although you can get some nice rich grass in the lower areas with all that rain running down. And even foraging, if you've got fruit trees or even old fruit trees that, you're not necessarily farming fruit from, they're still dropping fruit on the ground that sheep can forage for. And these sheep are hardy. They're able to they're able to eat a lot of inedible stuff and process it and get nutrients out of it. Their bodies are uniquely um, developed for that. So they they're it's very thrifty to raise that type of sheep. Okay. Any questions or anything you guys want to say or
I have a question, Anne.
uh-huh.
Um, so you talked about this marketplace where you can buy the straws and the embryos.
Mhm.
Um, how expensive are those? And like, does a straw, you said there's only 7,000 straws of the semen. How many ewes can you impregnate with one straw? And like, what would it cost to establish a flock?
You know what? I don't know about I assume that one straw is from one animal, like one ejaculation from one animal, and that you wouldn't I don't know if they try to distribute that over more than one sheep. I actually don't know the answer to that. But the cost the cost depends on the breed, and I'm trying to remember the numbers, but I want to say it's probably like averages like $300 a pop. No pun intended. but but and embryos would be more expensive. But that practice has been going on for a long time. And I assume, if you're impregnating a whole flock and you're buying in quantity, that there might be some kind of discount for that. Um I don't know if anyone here raises sheep or knows the answer to that kind of thing, but um the let me just repeat the name of that place. It's called Heritage Sheep Reproduction LLC. And it really is uh it really is established to be a resource first and foremost f- for people trying to build breeds or breed up in the United States. So, and Canada. I think it's it's a North American effort. So, I honestly don't know what people spend on that kind of thing, but I assume that the value of the sheep ultimately is going to pay off whatever. The thing is, if you can impregnate a ewe, you can then build on that geometrically. So if a ewe is producing 250%, that's gonna over time you're gonna be able to breed your own sheep with each other. So it's a temporary investment, and an investment that you might make to like um widen your gene pool every once in a while. but that it is something, that you have to put in your business plan, I guess, if this is what you're going to do. But I encourage you to go look on the website. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I
Okay.
mean, when I went to do it, it was in the summer, and I want to say they were out of a lot of breeds. Like a lot of breeds were sold out at that point. So I mean, who knew, right? It's so interesting. But breeders are really helping each other out in a variety of different ways to make fiber happen for us here. So,
And I have a question about how big the flock is where this yarn came from to get all these gorgeous colors in each skein.
yeah, she probably has she probably has 50 Wensleydales, but she has a lot more Romneys. So, she probably has most farms that I've seen that are producing the amount of fiber that we would be using are like, I visited a Corriedale farm one time, and I've never been to Carol's farm, but most of those size farms have at least 150 sheep at the height of the season, and then after shearing and sending animals to market, they they work down the number so that they only overwinter half or less of that amount. So it doesn't pay to try to carry over a lot of animals and feed them and house them and warm them all winter when you don't really need to. So um, I would say she's probably got 50 Wensleydales and 150 Romneys.
Thanks.
If I had to guess. And she's retiring, so she might even be working that down a little bit, or her son is taking over. Um, I don't keep in touch with her personally, but I'm assuming, that this has been lucrative for them and that they can keep doing it as a family. Anybody else have any questions? So, this yarn can be used, it can kind of it can kind of swing between a heavier sport weight and a DK weight. It has the same yardage as our other DK weights, but it is a denser, silkier fiber. And I found that it needed to be knit on a smaller needle than something like our Kent DK or our Stone Soup DK, which are much loftier yarns with a larger airier diameter. This is very solid and heavy for its diameter. So I designed this sweater with it. I had thought about doing a shawl, and you could use it for the Brocadia shawl. It would be a lovely yarn paired with the Blueface Leicester Entropy yarn. Um, it would marry really well with that. It does. When you wash it, it is very similar to mohair in that it does bloom with a little bit of a haze. Um, and that's where the woolly time name came from. Um, so I just wanted to create something that took advantage of the drape of this fiber, and it's not lofty, it's not airy, but it does have beautiful shine and drape. So I went with a popular style for us, like the Triticum or the 405 Lex, and we kind of needed a fresh specimen in that category, I guess. So I love this. This stitch pattern is one that goes way back with me. I designed a scarf called the butternut scarf, like in I don't know, 2008 or 7. And I always really love this pattern. It's fun to knit. It's super fun to knit. And to it reverses to a pattern that's also really attractive. So you can wear this sweater with the collar standing up, like very elongated like that, or you can roll it back into a shawl collar if you prefer, and the other side is equally pretty. I went with a kind of flared sleeve, so the sleeve is loose at the cuff. Just again to highlight the drape of it, and it has set in sleeves and seams, so to give that. And it's not like super liquid yarn, don't get me wrong. It has some body. It's not gonna like drape out on you or anything like that, but the seams do really help with a fabric like this to keep it stable and to keep it from um, losing its shape over time. Any questions about the design or and the pattern is published now. So we published a pattern Friday night. So it's available for download. And but you can knit anything you like with this. It is something that's more drapey than fulsome and lofty, so it doesn't have super great recovery, although the stitches, due to the fact that it blooms with this bit of a haze to it, the stitches do lock together and stabilize themselves that way. So I would say it would be, and it's a tough fiber. It's a little bit coarser and it's densely, it tends to spin up into a yarn that has density to it. So it'd be really good for mittens or fingerless mitts or even like heavy socks or slippers or something like that would work. And it would make a beautiful blanket because again, that drape and that sheen will give you, between, it will highlight stitch patterns really nicely, especially ones like this that have a negative and positive, contrast to them.
What size needle is that knit on?
Uh, I believe size 5. Let me check. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't know that. I just finished knitting it like a week ago. um, Let me just check because I'm already finishing another pattern. So it is, oh, size 4 and 6 needles. And the only thing you need is size, so I knit the whole thing on size 6 needles, but if you choose to add, so I went with this natural rolled edge. It's just a stockinette, 5 stitches of stockinette that roll up. But if you choose to add an I-cord finish to, stabilize that edge, that would require a size 4 needle to do that. And that's the only thing. It does
Can you
have, oh, go ahead.
can you flip it back one more time? I wasn't zoomed in on you. I wanted to see the opposite side.
Can you
Okay.
see it?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and actually in one of my Japanese stitch dictionaries, this stitch is presented as a separate pattern.
Hmm.
It's the same thing, but
Yeah.
and so matching motifs to this, which would be interesting to do in this yarn too. So there's the butternut scarf. It was patterned for lace yarn, but you could use this yarn on bigger needles and knit a scarf. You could take a repeat out and knit a nice scarf with that. And then the wussy pillow mitts and beret are also matching motifs with this. So those are items that have to fit a certain way. I don't know if you'd want to substitute out that yarn weight or not, but you could definitely do a scarf or you could make it into a wrap and it would be really nice wrap. Anybody else have any questions or
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Um, I primarily crochet. I don't want to
Uh-huh.
knit with this because I'm not a good enough knitter yet, and I don't want to ruin it. Um, but my thought was to make. I'm toying between a wrap
Uh-huh.
or I wear a lot of ponchos on the
Oh,
shoulder
yeah,
seasons.
nice.
Do you think the drape would work well for a poncho?
I think the drape would work well. Just, to caution you, it will feel a little heavier than some yarns when it's,
Right.
because it does have that heaviness, but either of those things would be really nice. Yeah,
Wonderful.
it would be gorgeous.
I fell in love with this when I got it in the mail and
Uh,
like that night, but
uh-huh.
bought a couple more skeins.
Uh-huh. You're not alone. I think we only have 21 skeins left. On Thursday we only had 21 skeins left, and that surprised
Wow.
me because um I love Barn Box because you guys are right in my lane. I mean, a lot of people would get this yarn and be like, it's not soft, and it's not, it's not the softest yarn, but it's rich with luster and drape and color, and it's there's a lot of great things about it. And soft yarn isn't good for everything. It's not
Right.
these kind of yarns, you'll have them forever. Whatever you make with this will last forever. It's indestructible kind of yarn, unless moths get at it, but you know, you know, strike that from our vocabulary.
I
So,
actually liked the heavier weight because, like I said, I generally wear a lot of ponchos in the shoulder seasons, but I
uh-huh.
think this is going to make a nice heavier weight one for me.
Yeah.
I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee,
Oh, uh-huh.
so it doesn't get, we're not having 2 below weather up here. We're
No,
having,
it gets down into the
30.
30s. Yeah.
And I think that would be I just can't wait. I just think it's gonna be gorgeous.
And this kind of wool is more most wools will shed water to a certain extent, but the long wools are especially good for that. So if you get caught out in the rain or whatever, it tends to more roll off of this kind of wool than like a merino. So
Love
which might absorb that a little bit more.
Yeah, lovely. Well, great job on your selection this month. I'm
Thank
in love
you.
with this. I
Thank
literally
you.
was like, I spent that whole when it came in the mail, I just kept holding it, like, I couldn't put it down.
I don't think you're alone in that. And I'm so excited about next month's too. We have a really, really cool selection for next month. Um, so a few announcements. We've got, as usual, all kinds of stuff on the horizon. We'll be heading out to Rhinebeck in the middle of October. So we'll be at the show in Building C in our usual booth. Super excited to go and to be there. And we have a Halloween kit coming up, which is a special surprise. Secret yarn, secret project coming up. I think that's going to be available before we leave for Rhinebeck. I think that's the target, is to get that out. Um, of course, with the Rhinebeck trip, we don't just go to Rhinebeck and leave you guys at home. We have specials all week long for people who can only access us online. Um, then when we get home from Rhinebeck, we've got the what used to be the Red Scarf fundraiser is still going to be a fundraiser, but for a different entity this year. So we'll be rolling that out after Rhinebeck. Will be this starting this year. We'll be donating the money to an organization called Harmony House, which is still local to us. It's in Akron, Ohio, and they provide housing for kids graduating out of the foster care system for whatever goal they are trying to, whether they're trying to go to work or go to school. They provide housing and help for kids that are in that situation. So super excited about that coming up. Then we have our fall retreat, which is so exciting. That's going to be in the middle of November. We still have a few spots left, just a few though, I think 3 or 4. Um, and it is a retreat where you can bring a companion, a non-knitting companion, or you can come and not do classes and just hang out and knit. The venue is a beautiful farm setting, just beautiful, comfortable rooms and light-filled areas, fabulous food, farm to table food. Anyone who did the spring retreat will tell you it's a wonderful event. So that's coming up. And then I have another sweater pattern that's just off the needles and will go out to the tech editor early this week. So we're hoping to publish that before Rhinebeck. It's a cabled sweater, so for people who love cables, um, knit in our Kent DK yarn, but any of our DK yarns would work for that. And just lots of stuff going on all at once. Anybody have any questions, or am I forgetting something I should be announcing? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. It's always good to see you. I'm always excited to see how many people show up for Wool School, and enjoy your yarn, share your projects, and also, we have knit alongs that are go throughout the year back to back. So right now we're in the middle of the Rhinebeck sweater knit along, which ends in the middle of October, but we'll be picking up right away with a kind of small project knit along geared toward finishing stuff up for the holidays, or, whatever. So our knit alongs are relaxed and fun, and have only two rules: that you need to knit a knit spot pattern or use bare naked wool's yarn, or both. So those are pretty much the only rules. We do them on Zoom 2 times a week, and it's a lot of fun.
The,
So
the only thing I can think of, and I'm negligent in this myself, is post on the Ravelry forum what you're starting. Show us what you're making.
yes,
So I'd like to see what people are making with this. And
yeah.
so I'm still up in the air on what I'm going to make, but once I start it, I'll post a photo in the forum.
And
So,
sometimes
because it'll be
seeing other
nice to
people,
see.
sometimes seeing everyone's projects in progress gives you an idea that you hadn't thought of
Mhm.
with something like this. I mean, this would be beautiful if you're into weaving. This would be beautiful weaving yarn as well. Um, so yeah, let us know.
And
Oh, y-
can I
oh,
give a
y-
shout out for the
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. In early November, I'll be speaking and teaching with Lisa's guild.
Yeah. So Anne is going to be joining us November 20th um, with the Greater Boston Knitting Guild. And it is a virtual event. So Anne's going to speak. She's going to take us on a yarn voyage. And she's also going to have a 3-hour workshop where she also has a sampler kit to go along with that. So you can play along while she talks about the different kinds of yarns and what they're good for. And it is open to non-members. We are primarily a virtual guild at this point. We have over 400 members across the United States and worldwide. And so, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So our workshop fees go to fund our programming and our charitable work. So I hope you'll consider joining. I'll put our website is very simple, gbkg.org. So if you want to take a peek, but we'd love to have anyone join us.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
No
And
worries.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. I meant to say too, we've just received a tidal wave of new buttons, which we did send out a newsletter this past week about the buttons, but we've got tons of new buttons. And we have even more coming. So if you've been waiting for us to restock our buttons are all natural materials, wood, shell, horn, bone, things like that, that pair really well with our yarns, as well as our bookkeeper Linda makes she's a ceramicist when she's not here, and she makes buttons for us as well that are very beautiful. So you know, we're making progress restocking our buttons. So if you've been looking or waiting, they're in now, or some of them are. So all right, I'll see you guys again in November. It's really cool that the barn box in November is going to drop during our retreat. So so we'll be talking about that. All right, you guys. Have a good Sunday. It's beautiful here. I hope it is where you are too. See you next time.